documentary about Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara, who, just before his death, finally admitted he was wrong about the U.S. invasion of Vietnam. During my second trip to Hanoi, I saw an elderly woman begging on the street. Her hands were contorted and her face so badly burned that my first instinct was to look away and hurry past. But I turned around and walked back, bent down and gently placed a donation in her cup. I looked deeply into her eyes and saw something I didn't have: inner peace. Then she cupped her hands in the prayer position, thanking me. I'm sure she could tell I was an American, and she had every right to feel bitter and resentful, but she exuded only dignity, compassion, and forgiveness. That encounter reverberated to the very core of my being. I had my second aha moment along a winding mountain road on the way to the A Shau Valley. As we drove, we found ourselves following behind a white Ford courier truck with dark-tinted windows. My Vietnamese guide explained that its markings meant it was a body retrieval truck. My first thought was that it was an American MIA recovery team looking for the last of the 1,641 U.S. servicemen still missing in Vietnam. No, they are looking for missing dead North Vietnamese soldiers, the guide explained. Until that day, I had never entertained the thought that my former enemy, the North Vietnamese, could be concerned about finding their missing sons and daughters, as if humanity was somehow exclusive to Americans. In 1969, the common American soldier belief had been that the Viet Cong were vermin-like beings, incapable of human emotions. Traveling behind that body retrieval truck was a revelation of our shared humanity. It has been over 40 years, and they're still looking for their missing. The problem is their soldiers, the People's Army of Vietnam, which we refer to as the North Vietnamese Army, NVA, wore no IDs, such as the American soldiers' dog tags, making identification of their deceased next to impossible. Even by conservative estimates, the war claimed the lives of more than 3 million Vietnamese, among them 1 million North Vietnamese soldiers. More than 300,000 are still missing. The thought of the remains of an enemy soldier inside that truck ripped me out of the present time and back to May 8, 1969, the day my best friend Ron Reynolds died. I can still remember Reynolds preparing to climb aboard his helicopter. He grabbed hold of my sleeve and looked at me solemnly. "I'm not coming back," Ron said. That caught off guard, and not knowing what to say, I tried to lighten the mood. "Well, Ron, I'd better take your last picture." I snapped a photograph of Ron, sitting with his arms hanging limp at his sides. Later that afternoon, Ron walked into an ambush. Mortally wounded, shot 3 times in the chest, Ron lay in the open elephant grass alone until Doc Glasser called out to him and held him, waiting for the medevac helicopter to arrive. Glasser told me Ron's last words were, "I'm thirsty." But that is not the end of this story. 20 years later, I wrote about Ron's death in this very book. But before I finished it, I wrote a letter to Ron's mother. I sent it along with a photo I'd taken of Ron and asked if it was okay to print it, knowing that his mother had, of course, never gotten over her grief. I worried that I might be reopening the wound. What Ron's mother wrote back was not what I expected. It was a thank you letter. For over 20 years, I had feared that Ron had died alone in the jungle. But the photo and the letter explaining the circumstances and how Doc Glasser had been with Ron gave me peace of mind, something I'd never felt since Ron's death. I relate that story to illustrate how a tiny piece of missing information can mean everything to a grieving parent. Trung Nguyen, or Wandering Souls Day, is Vietnam's second biggest holiday. The Vietnamese believe the missing spirits return to Earth in search of offerings left for them. They also believe these wandering souls can cause misfortune if they remain unsatisfied, so the object of the holiday is to provide ritual offerings to pacify the errant spirits. In the ceremony, the head of the household places a mat on the ground with offerings, bowls of rice, fruit, or rice alcohol, and then summons the wayward spirits to partake of the offerings by striking a gong or hitting 2 pieces of wood together. Family members hold burning joss as the kowtow.